Good morning. Female Frodo Baggins here. And last night I spent 3 hours watching Ironheart because Disney and Marvel want to get this over with as soon as possible. So they're doing a 6-episode release across 2 weeks. And each of their 3 episodes that they released last night was almost 50 minutes long. So 3 solid hours of Ironheart, and I just wanted to leave after the second episode, and I was like, do I really have to go back in there? Oh boy. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know how many people are actually going to watch this show. I don't know how long the discussion about it is actually going to be. A lot of people don't seem to care. Disney, this show, just so to recap for people who don't know, this show was made back in 2022 at the peak of awful Disney Plus, and Marvel sat on it all the way until now because they didn't want to release it, and now they're just kind of spitting it out onto Disney Plus. With minimal marketing, the most you get is some lip service from Robert Downey Jr. that he was paid to do. Which, if I were Robert Downey Jr. or Ryan Coogler, who is attached to this as an executive producer, which does not confirm or anything about how much you're involved, it can just be your name's written on it. If I were those two people, I would do everything I could to stay away from this project and not have anything to do with it, because this is a total disaster. But as we get into the review, I have to explain something for people. It's already going out there online. People went on the IMDb reviews and on Rotten Tomatoes and started to review bomb this show before it even came out. And then that in turn got what I would always expect to happen on Twitter, is to declare that everyone who hates this show is just hating on it because it has a black female lead, and everyone who hates this show is a racist. Let me explain the history of Riri Williams' Ironheart and why I expected this show to be awful, why I didn't understand why Marvel was doing it, and why I think that they wanted it hidden until now, where they're hoping that most people aren't even going to watch it. It has a percentage in the 70s on Rotten Tomatoes right now, but only 38 critics even bothered to review it. People don't care. Riri Williams' Ironheart has a history in comics, a history that built up a dislike, so to speak, of this character. She was created during the time in the 2010s where new writers and activist writers, old writers who became activists like Brian Michael Bendis, Riri Williams' creator, really wanted to push new, diverse characters to eventually, it seemed very apparent, to take over for the Avengers characters. And Ironheart was made as the replacement for Tony Stark. In fact, in the comics, while this doesn't happen in the show, she was literally the Iron Man, the replacement for Tony Stark when he died in the Iron Man books. So that's the history of Riri Williams. But Riri Williams, of all of these new characters that were created in that era, is the most notorious and the most volatile. Why? Because Ironheart from the beginning was a narcissist. Now, was that the intention behind the character? No, but that was the problem, that she was supposed to be this super confident, capable teenage girl, but she came off as a complete narcissistic psychopath at every turn. Many said on supervillain level, like her origin story was daring a teacher who supported her into telling her she would never be Tony Stark, because according to her, that was the only way for her to show her up and prove that she could do it, because she needed somebody to fight against her, even though everyone was supporting her. She took over a sovereign nation at one point. Those are just the two highlights. So that was the problem with Riri Williams' Ironheart, is that she came off as a narcissistic psychopath. She took over the Iron Man book, so she got rid of the classic Iron Man. And at that time, I was there all the way back then, and I remember back then the excuse for people not liking Ironheart was that they're just racists back then. And that created tension. That created tension around the character, not just because she was bad, not just because she was taking over for Tony Stark, but because on top of everything else. Criticisms about the character were hand-waved as you're just awful people if you don't like this character. And so I'm not agreeing with people going off and review bombing the show that they haven't seen, because that's not going to help anything. But I understand the history. It's because there's so much tension built in with the history of this character. Now, I knew with the history of Riri Williams, and by the way, Marvel Comics is well aware that she didn't work. After her solo series failed after about 12 issues or so, like, I don't know, this character at the very least has not appeared in any major capacity in Marvel Comics since. Like, they know that this character failed. But I was expecting the worst from this show because they were kind of hiding it. It was based off of this character, and I was not expecting it to be good, especially the era that was made of Disney Plus. But I didn't expect them to not only meet all of the criticisms about Riri Williams and her being a narcissistic supervillain psychopath like in the comics, but in some ways turn it up to 11 and exceed those expectations. And that's what you have to know about the Ironheart show. The problem with the Ironheart show is that it's all about Ironheart, Riri Williams, and she is potentially no, not even potentially. She is the worst, most unlikable character in the MCU's history. So, got my notes here. The show starts off with literally Riri Williams monologuing in a video, in an old video she's making with her friend, about how amazing she is, how she's better than Bill Gates, she's better than Tony Stark, she's better than Hank Pym.
Just to let you know, your girl finna be bigger than Jobs. Right. Bigger than Gates. Right. Bigger than Pym. Right. Bigger than Stark. Yeah.
And then that fades into a monologue of her in the present day, where she is also monologuing about how intelligent and how ingenious she is, and how she has the potential to be the greatest genius of her generation. But according to her monologue, the reason why that can't happen is she doesn't have billions of dollars like people like Tony Stark did. And this is the linchpin towards the show, like to the entire show. Riri Williams believes that she is the most intelligent person in the world. She is the new modern day genius, but she also believes that it is impossible for her to achieve what she wants to without billions of dollars, which she says several times throughout the show. I'm sorry. Did we not watch the first Iron Man? Did we not hear the line?
Possible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Tony Stark was captured by terrorists in a cave with a box of scraps that he made his first arc reactor with, that he was able to make his first prototype of the Iron Man suit to escape. That's his entire origin story. When they got back to the mainland, Tony Stark was the only person who could make the arc reactor who had that intelligence. That was the entire point, that Tony Stark, without his billions of dollars, had his genius, so he was able to do that. What is Riri Williams talking about that you can't do anything without billions of dollars at your back? Like, did Steve Jobs start off with billions of dollars? No. So many people in tech have come from nothing and worked their way to the top with their intelligence. That's absurd. How do you think these people get their billions of dollars? They work from the bottom and they get to the top. But Riri, and this has so far within 3 episodes not been condemned or disputed at all, she believes that she needs the billions of dollars first. And she says, no shade to Tony Stark, but that's just how life works. Riri, that is not true. Anyone with half a brain could tell you that is not true, but she believes the $1 billion has to come first, and that is how life works. You have to be rich in order to be successful. That is complete nonsense. Funnily enough, later in the show, a character asks her why she doesn't have an arc reactor, and she says it's not like they just hand those out, so she wasn't even able to create an arc reactor like Tony Stark, yet she still believes that she's better than him. But here is where that is Riri's downfall. So, as we hear in the show, she graduated high school at like 9 or 11, and she got into MIT as a teenager, and we begin with her there. But here's the problem. We hear that she, after 4 years, still doesn't have a degree, despite being this genius. How could she, with all this genius, still not have a degree and still not have graduated from here? Well, according to her own words, she is too good for a degree, and she is too good for the job that could be gotten with that degree. That it's just peanuts to her. She doesn't want to get a job with a bunch of guys she doesn't want to work with. Like, it's literally, that is her monologue. She is too good for any of this. Now, Riri, the reason why she's actually at this college or university is because she wants grant money for her inventions, specifically for an Iron Man knockoff suit that she's working on. But those inventions, a lot of times they keep failing. But don't worry, her excuse for why her inventions keep failing is because she doesn't have enough money for them. She thinks that she's the most ingenious, wonderful, smart person in the world who's better than all of those other geniuses, but that the reason why her things keep failing is because of lack of money. And so what she has done, as we find out in the opening of the show, is she has been giving off her inventions to other people so that they can pass it off on their own, and doing essays for other people that they can pass off as their own so that they can get good grades. So she's been engaging in plagiarism for money in order to get more money. That still does not work with her inventions and still does not get them to work. So what happened? And by the way, none of this in the opening is condemned at all. But what happens is she finally gets confronted by her teachers at MIT, and they confront her about having not graduated yet and at all of these things, and about the plagiarism that they know has been going on. And this, once again, is when we get more of an info dump from Riri Williams about why that is, and I just explained that. But she literally goes on a tirade to this teacher who's telling her that they just want her to do her homework and pass her grades and graduate from this school, this incredible opportunity that she has, and not obsess so much over the getting money and engaging in already criminal activities, shady activities in order to get that money. They just want her to succeed at this school. And she goes into a big tirade about how they're asking her to be small, but she refuses. And that's why she isn't graduating from the school and getting her degree. And that's why she keeps doing anything she can to get money in order to keep working on these machines that don't work. And I was gobsmacked by how narcissistic and insane this speech was. But then I was surprised. They make the teacher slap her down and say that is nonsense. But here's where it is. Now, the question with this show is, does it condemn Riri Williams for her narcissistic, psychopathic behavior? Well, yes and no, and we'll get to that, because on the one hand, you have the teacher slap her down here and be like, that's not true at all, and it seems like Riri is at that point being built up as this awful person who needs to be taken down a peg, but then her other teacher is talking to her in a really snarky voice and annoying, like you're not supposed to be on his side. So I'm like, okay, am I supposed to be with the teachers or against them here? I don't know. And that's the thing throughout the show, is that while the show acknowledges that Riri does things that are wrong in it, it does not really acknowledge her for the total psychopath that she is. Like, Riri is only in it for herself in this. There's a brief flippant line about how her tech could help the firefighters and all this stuff, but it's brief and it's flippant. When Riri describes her motivations in this show, she's like, a friend asks her, why do you have to build this Iron Man suit? And she needs to build an Iron Man suit that is better than Tony Stark's tech. Like, that is her whole goal. And she, at first, in the first episode, says that the reason is because people are obsessed with Iron Man suits. And if she can build that, then she will get the respect of everyone. And like, for the first 2 episodes, that's her motivation. She needs to make the Iron Man suit the best ever, even though people point out there's so many other things she could make, but she needs to make the Iron Man suit to garner respect. And the way she's going to do that, she believes, is by getting lots and lots of money. So her motivations in this show are ego and money, and she will do anything for money. What a likable, wonderful character this is. Now, maybe, as we're going to get into once again, it isn't completely condoning what she is doing, but it just doesn't condemn her enough. Like, if you had any doubt of how unlikable this character is, she gets expelled from MIT for the plagiarism, and this is her reaction when she gets expelled from the school that she just did a tirade that she didn't even want to be at.
You're expelling me?
Effective. Immediately.
Is there anything you would like to say?
I thought she was gonna explode and murder somebody or something. Even just the performance in this show, I don't know if it's the actress or how she was asked to perform this character, but it comes off as a supervillain. Like, this reminds me of the supervillain origin story of Doctor Doom, where he was one of the most intelligent people in the world, but it wasn't enough for him. He had to beat out Reed Richards, and that obsession is what eventually turned him into Doctor Doom. Like, that's what this show feels like Riri Williams is just so egotistical and narcissistic. She only cares and does things for herself, and all she's motivated is by ego and money and wanting respect. Like, it sounds like a supervillain. Now, what happens in the plot of this show is that she falls in with a bunch of criminals that offer her what she wants most in the world, money, if she will commit crimes as their new muscle, and she will get that money to be able to build the Iron Man suits that she thinks that she wants to build. So that's the entire plot of the show. Riri Williams was already committing some bad stuff. She was already doing some bad stuff to do what she wants behind the scenes. Now she's become a full-blown criminal, engaging in extortion, thievery, blackmail, all of this kind of stuff in order to get the money that she wants. And that is the protagonist of this show. Like, even when they're about to go on their first mission, she just asks, so when do we get the money? Because that's all she cares about. Now, going back to the conversation of, does this show condemn Riri Williams? Well, what we get in the show is we do seem to get some sort of conflict of conscience and morality as the show goes on, especially in episode 3. And episode 3 was the easiest one for me to get through, because whenever characters would condemn Riri in this show, I would cheer, because it's like, this is such an awful person that needs to be put in her place. What happens is Riri rather accidentally creates a new AI that is based on her best friend who was murdered along with her stepdad in a drive-by shooting. And this AI kind of serves as her conscience during the show, and I can see what they're doing there, with that being the small voice in her head that is pushing back against what she's doing. However, Natalie does not push back enough. Like, in episode 3, she's talking about her criminal activities, and Natalie says, you know, that guy you've been working for, the Hood, he's kind of shady. And I'm like, shady? He's a full-blown criminal. She watched him shoot someone, and while he survived, he shot someone in the last episode. After he was just trying to get away from a crime she helped him commit that was stealing and extortion. And Riri says, don't worry, I can handle it. And Natalie says, for now. And so I'm like, so she's committing crimes, and you're just saying that, yeah, you better be careful, you might get in over your head. Like, no. Like, if Natalie was really her best friend, and if Riri was ever a good person, which we don't really seem to see in this show, Natalie, she could be a person who's coming forward right now and being like, who are you now? You completely have changed from who I knew. The Riri I knew would never be engaging in this kind of activity. She would never be running around with these kinds of people. She had so much potential, and she's throwing it away. But no, Natalie does not push back on that level. And that's what I'm trying to get at here is, yes, while there is acknowledgement of Riri's flaws and a little pushback on what she's doing, you know, she does get some karma for the blackmail, like when she goes in the second episode to a guy who got parts to the black market, who is an important character. She gets a little bit of that thrown back at her in the next episode. But the problem is, this show seems to think that Riri is just this misguided teenager with a lot of potential, but it doesn't realize is it's made her into a full-blown narcissistic psychopath who is just so hateable that I just want her to get her comeuppance. I don't see a redemption path for her when, from as I see it, she was never a good person who had good motivations in the first place. Now, I don't know if the show might go further as it comes, as we watch the next 3 episodes, and might condemn her even more. Like, okay, in episode 3, we find out that this guy who's played by the guy who played Han Solo in the Solo movie, we find out that he is actually Ezekiel Stane, son of Obadiah Stane, and that is able to give insight into his character and how he sees Riri Williams as another person whose ego consumed them and became a monster. So when I saw that, I started to think, okay, are you guys actually acknowledging Riri Williams for the monster that she is? But I'm not sure yet. We have to see the context. Is it going to be just that, like, this is why Ezekiel is holding back on helping her when he should? or is she really the full-blown monster that he thinks she is? Because she really is a monster in this show. We just have to see how it's going. There does seem to be a thing with Mephisto coming in, and I thought that that was weird. Why are you introducing Mephisto in a show that is all about Ironheart? But they are doing something there, like the main character, the Hood, is has made a deal with Mephisto, and Riri does not know that she's working for that kind of mystical force. And for those who don't know, Mephisto is basically the devil in the Marvel Universe. So it could be that theme by the end of it, of how ego and narcissism could consume a person with so much potential that they unknowingly make a deal with the devil and lose their soul, so to speak. So if we're going in that direction, then it could turn out. But I just think that Riri is too far gone as a character, that all I want to do is see her comeuppance at the end because of how awful she is. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but I do want to say, even if Mephisto, and when they do a cameo with him at the end of episode 3, that was kind of scary, but I am frustrated because the reason why Mephisto is coming up, for those who don't know the history, is when WandaVision was coming out, we all thought that Mephisto was going to appear. He was going to be the big bad, and behind everything, it was going to be so cool. Only at the end, the showrunners were like, oh, we don't know who Mephisto is, and we've never read comics. So that was a big upset. So it's almost like since Agatha all along and this, they've been trying to apologize by bringing him back. And that just makes me feel sour because he still should have been in the WandaVision show, if at all. Now, I know I'm rambling, but there's some more odd stuff in this show. Like, in the second episode, Riri gets caught by a cop who sees her face. And this is some really weird choices with this show. So they make it so she can't close her helmet and he sees her face. And the reason why they have to do that is because the only way this cop with a gun is a threat to her is if her helmet isn't on. So he sees her face, and then the Hood blasts the bullet back at the cop with magic and injures him but doesn't kill him. And this is a little bit of a moment for Riri, where apparently murder is the line that she does not want to cross when it comes to all the crimes that she's committing. This creates problems because the cop survived, and everyone knows that Riri Williams has this suit because they saw her getting into it and flying away from MIT with it, and then she walked through town with her helmet up in that suit. So it could be pretty easy to find out who this person was, but it just ignores that. It completely ignores it. And the cops show up at Riri's house later, and it's like, oh, are they there because they literally saw her committing this crime? No, they don't even recognize her. They're there because apparently one of the people in the gang got killed. They got off. So this finally makes Riri believe that she maybe has gotten in over her head with these criminal activities, which, by the way, she only now acknowledges were criminal activities. She kept, even after the confrontation with the cop, even after the extortion, even after the stealing, she was still trying to say that she's not a bad person and that she wasn't committing a crime. And the Hood tells her, yeah, you're a criminal. You're committing crimes with us. And I'm like, you didn't realize that? You had no self-awareness this entire time? And she still makes it rain with that money before she starts having a little bit of a moral dilemma finally. But Riri's response to one of the gang members getting killed is not to try to repent and get out of this stuff, but to try to get ahead of the Hood before he comes after her too. So she tries to steal a bit of his cloak, but she is caught on a mission by the best friend of the Hood, who tries to attack her. And basically, stuff happens. They're in a scientific facility. They wind up in an area where the oxygen is taken away. Riri leaves the guy in the no oxygen tank to essentially suffocate, and the show ends with her hyperventilating over what she has just done. Bear in mind, the guy was subdued and begging for mercy, and she could have let him live, but she ran away to save her own skin. So I guess we have to see next time where it goes for Ironheart. Is she really going to face consequences for her actions and what she's done? Or is she gonna get off scot-free? Because I don't know any other way for her to get out of this other than just going to prison for all that she's done. But yeah, I do acknowledge that the show might be working with some sort of a morality theme there, maybe with what they're doing with Mephisto, the Hood, and the characters are just motivated by ego and needing respect, and the villain is like a parallel of Riri where all he wants is respect. I should say, and I am rambling a bit here, I'm just going over my notes, trying to remember everything. By episode 3, it did amend the whole thing about how Riri only wants to create suits just to get respect. She says that she's obsessed with creating the Iron Man suit because her dad was such a big Tony Stark fan. But even then, I'm like, okay, so that's the whole thing behind Riri Williams. She says that she had no choice but to become a criminal to get this money. She 100% had a choice. She never had to commit crimes to get money. She never needed that much money. She was getting grants from the college. She did have a lot of opportunity going forward. It just wasn't enough for her ego that she had to keep going bigger and keep trying to cut ahead and keep trying to get ahead and keep trying to go bigger. Something that at the very least this show never acknowledges is wrong so far. So I'm like, you're saying that you're committing crimes and doing all this awful stuff where people could even get killed because your father was a big fan of Tony Stark? That did not make me feel any more sympathetic to her. There was no reason for any of this to happen. They didn't even put in something like, oh, she's trying to take care of an ailing relative, or someone stole her work, or something. Like, she had everything going for her, and she tore it apart for her ego, which maybe that's the point, but we have to see the next half of this show to see if that's where they go. But as it stands, Riri is the most unlikable character I have ever experienced in the MCU, and a definite, I guess, positive adaptation of the one in the comics, because that's what she was in the comics. But there you go. So I would say good luck defending this show, anyone online. Like, we'll see how the ending theme plays out, but like, this is just such a horrible character to follow in this show, and the only way I can see it redeeming itself is if it treats her as a full-blown supervillain who needs to just have her comeuppance at the end. Side note, but by the end of episode 2, there's this really weird scene that's of the character played by not Han Solo stepping on dog poop and getting revenge on his neighbor for that by chopping up her daisies, and it has no purpose in the show, and they really zoom in on him stepping on it, and I have no idea why it was there. That was so weird. Now, is this the worst show that Marvel has ever put out? It's hard to say that because every show is the worst. Like, Daredevil Born Again was awful, and so all the shows that they have done for Disney Plus have just been awful. It all meshes together. This is just, unfortunately, typical for what you get from Marvel on Disney Plus. But that's all I got for you guys today. If you want to support me on Patreon and memberships, then the links are in the description. Thank you all for watching this little ramble on Ironheart. I have a lot more coverage for the July season when it comes to movies, and I will see you guys next time.